What is up everyone? Welcome to the video. Today we're going to be talking about Annie Thorisdottir and her postpartum journey. I saw my friend Bethany Robinson, I'll have her video linked down below. She did a little bit of a reaction to this article on the Morning Chalk Up where Annie kind of explained her journey through postpartum depression and just getting through the struggles of becoming a mother and everything like that. And I thought, you know what, it would be a really good idea for me to kind of react to the article as well, since I am a mother and I've recently gone through that. I'm currently 9 months postpartum and I want to share kind of my thoughts, my feelings, and my journey, because every postpartum journey is pretty unique to each woman. Each woman's gonna have a different birth. Each woman's gonna have a different recovery. Some women struggle more than others, and I figured, you know what, I would put my 2 cents in here since I've kind of gone through something similar to what Annie has gone through. So without further ado, let's get into it and start reacting. All right, so the article was published May 10th, 2021. I thought it was a much sooner. I thought it was like recent, but I guess I missed it. But it's actually really something important to talk about, and I know that they published this on Mental Health Awareness Month, which is really great. And I think that when women go into pregnancy, a lot of us tend to think that, or birth and pregnancy, whatever, a lot of us tend to think that it's similar to the movies. Like in the movies, when you give birth, you're all happy and oh my gosh, you know, crazy, amazing things are happening. That's really not the reality for probably a good portion of birth. And so in the article, Annie says, after I had Freya, I had my highest high and my lowest low, which is completely true. A lot of us go through that, women who have given birth. After the adrenaline had disappeared and the uncontrollable emotional roller coaster had settled, my world seemed less colorful than usual whenever Freya wasn't in my arms. Yes, happy, smiley, bubbly, energetic, and always in love with life, Annie is suffering from postpartum depression. And it's like, that statement's true. Like I would say I didn't deal with too bad of postpartum depression, because personally for me, I was aware of it and I've dealt with anxiety and depression in the past, and I really didn't want this to stop me. But did it? I mean, I really did struggle and I really tried to hide it, especially around like friends and family. I really tried to show like I was in control of my emotions. I wasn't letting the hormones stop me from living my life, and I really struggled. The one person who really saw it was David. I mean, I know I shared quite a bit of my story on here on my YouTube channel of like my postpartum recovery, but it was hard. Like, it's not easy, and I didn't want to come on here and sound like I was complaining, and I really tried to do whatever I could to get myself out of the feeling of postpartum depression, I guess you can say. Like, I really tried to push through it as much as I could. It was really hard, but since with myself I have dealt with depression and anxiety in the past, I had some tools to kind of help myself. And some people might have thought, okay, wow, she's recovering really great and she's doing really good, but at the same time I really did struggle quite a bit, and it was really hard. And I think more people need to talk about it, but I know a lot of women are scared to talk about it because we're kind of shit on a little bit, like, oh, you're just complaining, like it's not that hard. A lot of people tend to not take postpartum depression very seriously in women, which really sucks. Anyways, so she continues to say, I didn't want to go outside, I didn't want to eat, I couldn't sleep. I myself wasn't too bad with that. I really wanted to recover from my C-section, and I knew what I needed to do. And I know that Annie had more of like a vacuum birth, whereas I had a C-section, and I kind of had that motivation, like, okay, I need to get up for my kid, I need to be able to move for my kid, and if I'm not getting up and walking and moving, then I'm just gonna kind of cripple myself a little bit more, because I won't be able to move easier because I don't heal properly, or I don't keep the C-section scar moving or anything like that. And so I did try and go outside as much as possible. It was the springtime. It was hard when it was like the snowy and cold days, but then when it was really warm and sunny, it felt really good to go outside. Eating wasn't too bad for me. I still managed to eat, although personally for myself, when I'm not feeling great and I'm feeling really low, I tend to eat. That is my comfort. And when I'm not feeling like myself, I eat a lot. And I did that throughout my pregnancy when I really dealt with a lot of depression in my pregnancy, and I really struggled with that. So yeah, I personally was eating, but I was probably not eating the healthiest choices, and I wasn't eating like I normally would, I guess. I was just trying to eat for comfort rather than for like health, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And she says I couldn't sleep. That's something that's really interesting, and I made myself aware with this quite early on in my pregnancy because I knew a lot of women who really struggled with sleeping with their babies. Like I saw a lot of women, they had insane anxiety letting their kids sleep. Like I had it too, but I guess I suppressed a lot of it, which probably wasn't the best thing because I see it coming out now. I mean, you can suppress something so much and then it eventually is going to kind of boil over. And I see that coming out a little bit now, whereas like one little thing might send me over the edge, whereas there I just was like, I wasn't totally coherent. I don't remember a lot what happened in not long postpartum. Like I would say in the first 6 weeks, I don't remember a lot. I knew that I wanted to take as many photos so I could try and remember or just try and capture as many memories as possible, and David was very helpful with that. And I see myself now like that I'm not necessarily in postpartum depression, but I really have a lot of like anxiety and stuff. And I know that, going back to my story, I know that a lot of women tend to have anxiety watching their babies sleep, that their babies make noises because babies tend to like have very active sleep when they're first born. And was like, okay, like I can't get in the mindset of like focusing on my baby while he sleeps, because if I start worrying about every little thing, then I'm gonna like literally go over the edge. And that was really one of my major things with like anxiety and depression, is that like just if one little thing happens and I start worrying about that one little thing, I'm gonna be gone. Like it was like really trying to suppress it as much as possible, and it just, I can see it coming out a little bit now, some of that suppression that I did where I get anxiety very easily. But back then I kept saying like, if I worry about little things, like especially like COVID and everything like that, like if I go out to a store and I'm like so concerned that there's someone close to me and I start panicking and worrying about COVID, that my baby's gonna get sick, then I'm gonna start worrying about every little thing. It's normal to have worries, but for me personally, it was just like, if I start worrying about this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing, it's gonna just put me into a complete spiral. And I really tried to control that as best as possible. She goes on to say, I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize what I saw. Maybe some of you know what I'm talking about here. A big, soft, fleshy, empty vessel of a belly. I'm an elite athlete, this is not my body. During my pregnancy, I embraced my belly because I was growing something. I was proud to represent that belly, could not wait to meet my baby girl, but now it was there for no reason. I had no function, it was just empty. I looked in the mirror. I spent my whole life making myself stronger, fitter, ready for whatever physical tests I could imagine. I experienced birth to be another workout or challenge that my body would be able to shoulder, but it didn't. My body let me down. And this is something that actually really hits home with me, because I went through a pretty difficult birth, if you don't know. I ended up having to have an emergency C-section, which is pretty normal for a lot of people. It was just a very complicated birth. And I remember taking a picture of myself in the hospital because I looked back at that picture and I just like, I didn't know what to do. Like I just looked at myself and I was like, who are you? Like I was happy that I was creating life, and I was excited that I was creating life. And same with Annie. I might not be a games athlete, but my body has always been my strength. Even through injury, I have worked through it, I've pushed through it, and it has always been there for me. And after giving birth, I just felt defeated. Like my birth was very, very hard and couldn't understand why it was hard. I had this like kind of idea of what my birth was gonna look like, and it didn't turn out anything like that. And I was just, I guess, in a little bit of a state of shock and a little bit in a state of disappointment with my body. And I struggled because I was like, should I just like kind of give up? And a lot of people around me who had C-sections weren't people who were doing CrossFit or anything like that. So I was just like, well, maybe my career's over. I don't see myself ever being able to do toes to bar or being able to do a sit-up again. Like my abs are destroyed, my stomach's destroyed, and I don't know what to do. And I was kind of at this like loss, and I tried to push through it as much as possible. I tried to get walking, I tried to recover. I mean, luckily I had a lot of support from obviously David, but my physiotherapist too. She was a huge support for me and a big encourager of being like, no, you're gonna get through this, you're healing really well, like you're doing everything properly. I took a lot of steps in my pregnancy to make sure that my recovery was good, but my recovery journey was way different than I thought it would ever be. I'm lucky I had people helping and encouraging me through that, because I really did look at my body and I was like, now what? You know, I don't know how to explain it. And so continuing on, she says, I looked in the mirror and thought about my labor, 3 days of agony, watching my own blood push back into the IV, pushing and pushing, still no end in sight, getting rushed to the emergency surgery suite after hours of pushing, a room full of doctors, the sound of the vacuum, the release of Freya finally emerging, quiet, the minutes of dreadful silence except for the frantic stubble conversation between the doctor standing over my little girl, and then a cry. I honestly didn't think that this would be hard to talk about, but this is my emotions because I still have some trauma from my birth. Like I said before, movies tend to make birth a very magical and beautiful experience, which it definitely can be, but sometimes it can be very traumatizing. And you know, I don't remember a lot from the actual birth aspect, but it was very difficult. I was in labor for, I think, over 48 hours. I can't remember honestly, but there was days where I was just feeling so bad. I was having such bad contractions. I wasn't dilating. I was in extreme amounts of pain. The pain was so bad it was making me vomit. It took a long time, and then if you don't know, sorry, my voice is cracking. If you don't know, I ended up having to go on Pitocin because my body just couldn't relax. I was trying to do everything I could to relax my body to be able to dilate, and I just couldn't. I tried meditating, I tried calming, I tried walking, I tried doing the things that I thought I could do to calm my body, but it just wouldn't. Finally, like after, you know, hours of being on that, I was dilating and I was at 9.5 centimeters, and then he was flipped and they couldn't get him out because there was a little bit of a lip that it wasn't hard enough. We tried pushing, we tried flipping him in me, and same with her. It just like felt like my body was not working, like it was not doing what it was supposed to do. And then after that we went to emergency C-section, if you don't know, and yeah, I just felt them cutting me, which sucks. And so they gave me like laughing gas or whatever because they couldn't put me under right away because the uterus bleeds a lot. So what they had to do was kind of give me laughing gas to make me loopy. So I don't remember anything. The only thing I really remember is saying, is he out? Because there was kind of chatter, and then David's like, yeah. And then they brought him over to me and I was like really excited, but I don't remember much. And then they put me under. So a lot of my birth was pretty traumatizing, and really sucks that it wasn't what I thought it would be, and that my body didn't do what I thought it would do. The article continues to say, I looked in the mirror, my belly, my empty belly, my weakened separated abs that might never come back together again. I'll probably never train properly again. I'll probably never be me again. Why am I being so selfish, worrying about my belly, about myself? I have this precious little baby and I need to protect her. I looked in the mirror, tired, delirious, anemic. I hadn't slept in days, and when I did sleep, it was for 10 minutes only. The moment Freya had made a sound, I became scared and anxious and crippled, and all I could think about was protecting this little baby I would do anything for. Why don't I have an appetite? Not even for candy or pizza. I looked in the mirror, my belly was empty. I was empty. 5 days after delivery, I decided to pump and let Frederick feed Freya, and after the 3.5 hours of sleep, I saw colors again. Maybe I was gonna be okay. So very similar. I remember, like I said, looking in the mirror and just being like, I'm never gonna be able to do a lot of exercises that I ever did again. And my abs had separated quite early on. I had a lot of coning, and it was really hard to not compare myself because I saw a couple girls, especially on Instagram, it's so stupid, but I was comparing myself to these people who kind of jumped back into the gym and acted like it was not a fucking problem. And I'm sitting here going, my abs are separated. I don't have a core. Even myself now, I sometimes have some of those intrusive thoughts of like, you're never gonna be where you were before pregnancy, because I'm still struggling to get back to that because my core is not as strong, and it kind of sucks. Like, it's really hard and it is a struggle for me, and I really felt that really a lot at the beginning. I was like, how am I ever going to recover from the C-section? How the hell am I going to recover from my abs? Like, I had no idea what the hell I was going to do. And same thing she says, She would only sleep for 10 minutes only. The moment Freya made a sound, she became scared and anxious. I was aware of that, and I really made that a huge priority of mine to not focus on that and know that they have active sleep, and I can't let that consume me or else it's going to put me over the edge. So I really just tried to really trust the universe and that everything I was doing was right, and I can have control, but if I'm going to try and control everything, it's going to put me in a really bad mental health space. Even though I was in a bad mental health space, it was going to put me even more of a worse mental health space, if that makes sense. She says 5 days after delivery, I decided to pump and let Frederick feed Freya, and after 3.5 hours of sleep, I saw colors again. Maybe I was going to be okay. That's the difference between her and my journey, is that I had to rely a lot on David because I couldn't move. I couldn't do a lot of things. David was the one who first changed Cove's diaper. David was the one who was picking him up, rocking him, putting him to sleep, all those things. Like, I had no control because I literally could not get out of bed and help him. The only thing I could do was lie there for especially the first day, if not first couple of days in the hospital. I pretty much just lied there. The odd time I was towards that and I was starting to get up more, but I couldn't do anything. I couldn't lift him, I couldn't pick him up, I couldn't rock him as well. I knew that I could feed him, luckily, but other than that, I really had to rely on David and his help. Whereas Annie, she seemed like she had more of a vaginal birth, so she was able to get up and move and do things, not that she was doing them well, but a lot quicker than I could, so she was able to do that rather than Frederick doing it for her. So that was a little bit of a difference. But yes, if you can have your partner help you, it makes a world of a difference, because first of all, they need to learn too. They're a person who's also taking care of a baby, and I know you want to have control as a mother because it's your motherly instincts, but at the same time, it's so important to give some leeway to your partner so they have a chance to learn and that they can help you too, because it's really hard on your mental health if you're solely concentrating on this kid, and it's hard as a mother already because it's relying on you as well, but if you're solely doing every single thing and not giving your partner a chance, it's even harder. So she continues to say, I never really believed in depression. Well, it's not that I didn't believe in it, it's just that it was foreign to me. I didn't understand it. And when I became pregnant with my baby girl, I especially didn't understand how women could end up with postpartum depression. How could you have this new little person you created to be so depressed? It was just so far from being anything real to me that it happened to me. I don't think I ever gone that far down in my life. It's a feeling I didn't even know I could feel. The only thing that made me happy was holding Freya and being with her. And that was the same thing too. Like, I dealt with some postpartum depression, of course, and I remember being so happy. I have a video clip, I'll try and put it on here, but Cove was lying on my chest and he was just looking at me, and that was one of the most happiest moments I've had in my entire life. But of course, dealing with depression is not easy, and I have dealt with depression in that past, so I kind of was aware of it a little bit more. But I know for sure a lot of women who are not aware of postpartum depression really don't recognize it, and then when it hits them, it's really, really hard. I mean, it's different for every single person, every single woman, but for sure, if you're pregnant or if you want to have kids, just be aware of it, because it's something that really hits you hard, and it's just something so unexpected when it's supposed to be literally such a happy day, but it is very, very hard. She continues to say, I keep having flashbacks of my traumatic delivery. That made it worse, I think. My midwife told me a natural delivery would be best for the baby, so that's what we did. I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. I'm not sure why the doctors kept letting me try. Maybe they shouldn't have, but it's nothing I'm going to change what happened. When Freya came out, she wasn't breathing. I panicked. I had made the wrong decision to push so hard. Did I do damage to her? I didn't know how else to approach it. I trusted myself, my body, to bring my baby out healthy and safely. At that moment, I was sure I failed. So that actually is something that I completely relate to, because I was planning on going as natural as possible. I wanted to kind of approach birth in a different perspective, because the hospital that we were going to really allowed that. They wanted people to go as natural as possible, so that's doing it like a squatting position instead of on your back, or they had a bathtub to be able to give birth in a bathtub, and I really was kind of going for that, and it obviously did not happen like that. I'm grateful that I was at a hospital that the doctors had a lot of knowledge and they were able to help me as best as possible. And even to this day, I really struggle. Like, I'm like, what could I have done differently? Should I have done this? Should I have tried this? And I can't change the past, and it really sucks because I felt like I was like, shit, like I screwed up kind of thing. Like, I didn't do birth properly, but who does birth really properly anyways? And yeah, I really relate to that section of the article because I really thought that my body was gonna go one way with this birth, and in reality, it didn't go that way. But I'm so grateful that I have a healthy baby and he came out okay and nothing was too bad for him in the end. So I'm so grateful for that. She continues to say, I was terrified to leave Freya for even a moment, but I knew I had to. My mom was there with her as I left the house for the first time since she was born. All I did was go for a walk with Frederick. It was terrifying, but so freeing. There is a whole world out here. People walking their dogs, doing their groceries. All of a sudden the colors started coming back. I feel incredibly lucky to have people in my life I could talk to. Lucky I felt comfortable talking about what I was feeling in the days that following giving my birth to my baby girl. So this is really great, and I'm glad she was able to come out of it, I guess you can say. I'm grateful too that I have a good support system. David, I made him quite aware of postpartum depression before I gave birth because I was so aware of it. And I think that really helped kind of prepare him what I was going through. And I remember too, going out of the hospital and driving home, it was like so weird that like so many people just were continuing on with their lives and you just went through this insane experience, and it's like so odd. It's like the weirdest feeling in the world, but it's nice to see that she, she was able to get through it. And finally, she continues to say, even though I felt guilty and ashamed of what I was feeling, I decided to talk. The more I talked, the more I shared to Frederick, my mom, on social media, the more support I received and the easier it got. Every time I shared a tidbit of what I experienced, it seemed to help someone. I started to make even deeper connections with my friends and my followers, and that helped me. Sharing what I went through took a weight off my shoulders. The anxiety, the guilt, the shame started losing power over me, and I had nothing to be ashamed of anymore. Nothing to hide. And as I talked about it, I started to feel more comfortable getting out of the house, started to feel ready to reestablish my routine again, started using my body again, regaining trust. The first steps were small: a walk, taking the stairs instead of the elevator. 5 weeks after getting birth, I sat on a bike for the first time. I cannot explain in words how freeing that experience was. And that's exactly how I felt. I'm grateful that I had the support, and I'm grateful that I shared some of my experience here on social media because I know that a lot of people were curious about it, and it was nice to connect to other women who have gone through birth and who have had C-sections and were getting back into the gym, and we're kind of going on similar journeys and things like that, and it was really nice. It's good to talk about that experience, and that's what I'm doing now, is sharing that experience with you guys. I don't want to like scare anyone too, because I know that a lot of people tend to really hate women who share a lot of their postpartum experience, because of when women share that, like the postpartum depression, it seems very negative and very down for what's supposed to be such a uplifting moment. But just like any mental health thing, it's just super important to talk about and super important to share. And it's nice that Annie is open to share it and share it with the world to make women feel more comfortable, especially women in the fitness space, because we don't hear about that very often. Like when I was in postpartum and I was going on my postpartum journey and starting to work out again, I mean, I went through my struggles, but it was also hard because I saw all these women on social media, CrossFitters, fitness influencers, whatever, just jumping back into the gym, doing their little bounce back, and like they were fine. Like they had nothing, no issues. They were just like, yeah, I'm going back to the gym, I'm working out, I'm doing all these things, I'm perfectly fine. I was like, I don't feel like that. I feel like I'm struggling. I feel like I can't lift anything. I feel like I can barely move. And yeah, like it really sucks when you see that, and it's really hard, and you feel like you're so alone. So that is why I wanted to share my journey, because I felt so alone. I felt like all these women were jumping back in the gym and they were looking so good and blah, blah, blah. And I was still, riding a bike and doing some basic exercises. I find that she continues, it might seem small, but it's often the smallest things that can have the biggest impact and help turn things around. I had taken the first step in to find myself again, to start my life with Frederick and our baby. I feel so lucky. I could have been so much worse. It is for so many women who stay trapped with those feelings, who suffer alone. We are not our thoughts, we are our actions. So it's not something that we should be hiding. It's not something to be ashamed about. It's not something we should avoid talking about. We need to talk about it, which is true. Talking about it is what helped me get through what I experienced after my first pregnancy. And I know it's what will help me get through another pregnancy, because I'm absolutely going to have more kids. Having Freya was the most amazing feeling, even though I sunk lower than I ever have before. I also had the highest high I have ever felt before. I never, not even for a moment, would have said that she wasn't worth it. Even if it had been my worst for me, even if it wasn't able to compete again, it was worth it, so worth it. So that is something that's just so beautiful to hear, and I'm glad that she was able to overcome it. And it's nice to see that she, with her big platform, that she's able to share this experience. And looking at the comments, there's not many, but it's just nice to see so many women relating to this, because I know a lot of women feel alone and it's hard and we struggle. Even postpartum depression's hard, but even postpartum anger is really hard too. And that's something that needs to be talked about. In the hospital, they really emphasize that you're gonna really struggle with anger. And I did. I don't like to admit it, but I really had a lot of anger, and it was very hard. And at the same time, just giving birth to a kid is a whole new adjustment, and it's just hard. It's hard mentally, it's hard physically. No matter what your birth is, we all go through our struggles, and I think it's important to talk about and share and make people just a little bit more aware of it, so that when they're going through it, they know that they're not alone, and that many women go through it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm gonna have Bethany's video linked down below. I'm sorry I got a little emotional in there, but you know what? It still is a pretty emotional thing for me, and I'm still going through some emotions and some PTSD from my birth, and I'm still working through it, and I think I'll be working through it for a long time, which is totally okay. Yeah, so if you guys have similar experiences or want to share your experiences down below, let me know. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Give the video a thumbs up if you like it. It also helps the channel a lot. And also don't forget to be unstoppable. That was one thing that really helped motivate me and kind of help me get through a really hard time in my life, but also a beautiful time in my life, is that I just tried to, you know what, tell myself, don't forget to be unstoppable, Nicole. And I want you guys to know that too. Don't forget to be unstoppable. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Summer days burn me out, love just brings me down. Go inside like winter leaves that slowly leave the ground. Hey, you come back, I wanna give you a chance. Love me like you used to, so we can learn again. The skin is getting brown, baby, drink your night.